we're here for each other, right? We're gonna stick this out, right? Let's not give up, okay?
So my plan is to move my online clothing business up to Parowan.
On Starspill USA, we delve into the unraveling of a family once revered as a modern example of plural harmony. A family whose faces once graced reality TV screens under the banner of spiritual unity, yet whose foundations have splintered into chaos, manipulation, and public breakdowns. And nowhere is that implosion more evident than in the shocking footage that emerged from Flagstaff as the sun dipped behind the mountains and cameras started rolling on what many believed would be a desperate attempt at reinvention. Kody Brown's televised auditions for new wives, spectacle that began with whispers on Reddit and low-resolution leaks in fan forums, but spiraled into a televised farce that laid bare the raw dysfunction at the heart of what was once sold as sacred, plural, love. Inside a converted warehouse-turned-studio, tension thickened the air like molasses. With velvet drapes, silk ferns, and faux spiritual decor failing to mask the desperation of a production crew attempting to polish a crumbling myth. And there, at the center of it all, Kody himself sat upon a velvet armchair, his grin tight with nerves, his hands betraying his own anxiety as producers moved about with the hushed urgency of damage control. One of them whispering, "Kody, this could be your new beginning," as though speaking into a void of wishful thinking. But outside, parked just a block away in her dark SUV, Robyn Brown was experiencing anything but serenity, her body shaking with sobs, her mascara bleeding into the corners of her mouth as she stared down at the raw footage someone from the inside had deliberately sent to her phone, footage not yet meant for human eyes. Footage that shattered the last illusion she held about the man she had defended, championed, and clung to when all the other wives walked away. There he was, on-screen, jovially interviewing women as though they were contestants on a spiritually themed dating show, asking them absurd questions like, would you be comfortable living off the grid? And how do you feel about headship? While nodding sagely and sipping from a thermos, as if decades of emotional betrayal, broken family ties, and personal delusion could be distilled into another season of performative pluralism. But Robyn, who had once joked about a spiritual compatibility segment to rekindle Kody's public image and perhaps restore their dwindling finances, never imagined the joke would evolve into this grotesque charade. She had whispered the idea in jest, only for producers to run with it, calling in branding experts, assembling casting directors, and opening submissions to the public. Turning her offhand comment into a full-fledged circus stand, now she watched helplessly as it played. Out without her, her role in the family diminished to a ghost haunting the edges of the stage. Inside the studio, women paraded in a demure dress, claiming to have received a vision about becoming Kody's next spiritual wife. Another convinced their chakras aligned after a dream, and a third, an Instagram influencer hoping to raise her visibility by co-parenting on television. All of them indulged by Kody with good-natured chuckles, unaware or uninterested in the emotional wreckage accumulating behind the scenes. And then contestant number 7 arrived, sharp, poised, dressed in a black blazer and denim, with an energy that made the entire room shift. And when she spoke, her words sliced through the artifice. "I'm not here for Kody," she said. "Coolly, I'm here to expose the truth." Before sliding a stack of printed emails across the table, revealing Robyn's involvement from the beginning, exposing her as the architect of the very humiliation now consuming her. Back at home, Robyn crumbled, pacing barefoot across hardwood floors, clawing at the air, screaming into the void as the confessional crew stood awkwardly, cameras in hand, unsure whether to keep rolling or run. She hurled a framed family portrait across the room, glass shattering like the illusion of her control, and shrieked, "I created this show. I rescued him. This was our redemption arc." While her youngest child watched from behind a cracked door, confused and afraid. The footage so raw that TLC executives initially deemed it unairable. nonetheless found its way online, an unedited avalanche of grief and madness that struck a chord with a public already suspicious of Kody's shifting loyalties and the show's polished narrative. Mary, watching from her Airbnb in Utah, rolled her eyes and muttered during a live stream, "You've got to be kidding me. What is he doing auditioning wives like it's American Idol?" While her chat exploded in emojis and disbelief. Janelle in her RV chuckled bitterly and remarked on speakerphone, "Well, at least Robyn knows now how we felt." Kody's loyal until the next catastrophe, and with that, she closed her laptop, feeling more vindicated than she ever had on screen. And as the dust settled, contestant number 7 returned, this time greeted warmly by Kody, who smiled and said, "You're brave. You stood up to Robyn. You could really make a difference." But her expression remained impassive as she leaned forward and explained, "I'm actually a freelance documentarian. I recorded each audition under a different contract. This isn't reality TV. It's an expose. On you, Kody, on all of this." And when she slid a legal document across the table, Kody's face collapsed into stunned silence. That night, the internet lit up like a Christmas tree. Hashtags trended, hashtag justice for Janelle, hashtag Robyn meltdown, hashtag Kody exposed, and memes of contestant number 7 circulated like wildfire. Dubbed by fans as the Prophet Slayer and the Backlash, couldn't be stopped. TMZ, Page 6, even mainstream networks ran headlines like, "Mystery contestant reveals secret documentary plot and Kody Brown's auditions backfire spectacularly." Within 48 hours, TLC executives were holding emergency Zoom calls, debating damage control, while ratings spiked to unprecedented levels. Viewership tripled. Ad revenue soared, and so, rather than pulling the plug, they leaned in, crafting new promotional materials dripping with drama this fall. Out of the flames of betrayal, a new beginning, but was it real or just another illusion? The show spiraled out of control, but the documentary, titled The Prophet's Illusion, Inside the Collapse of the Brown Family, was formally greenlit, with Robyn refusing to film further episodes and Kody attempting to negotiate boundaries that were already long past shattered. Alina Morse, now revealed as the mysterious number 7, dropped a trailer that broke the internet. "You thought it was about family." Her voiceover said it was always about power, and across message boards and forums, fans rallied behind her, with a fervor once reserved for the Brown family themselves. And just when the scandal seemed to reach its zenith, yet another leaked video emerged. This time shot clandestinely by a remorseful crew member, showed Robyn alone, sitting on the edge of her unmade bed, cradling a photo of her and Kody. Her voice soft and broken. "I gave him everything. My kids, my loyalty, everything. Now I'm just the last wife standing. And he's still out there looking," and the silence that followed her words was heavier than any narration, any edit, any network spin could manage. 6 weeks later, The Prophet's Illusion premiered and shattered expectations. It was brutal, intimate, and unrelenting in its portrayal of collapse. From Robyn's unraveling to Kody's tantrums captured during unaired confessionals, where he ranted about betrayal by his children, mocked the concept of spiritual leadership, and bemoaned his fading power, viewers were stunned by one haunting montage in particular, where Robyn could be seen whispering into Kody's ear before an interview, urging him, "Say it's about unity. Say you love all your children equally," as though rehearsing a script that no longer convinced anyone, least of all themselves. And so it was that the house of cards finally came tumbling down, not with grace or dignity, but with mascara-stained cheeks, legal contracts, and hidden cameras, an empire of illusion crumbling under the weight of its own hypocrisy. And as the credits rolled on Morse's documentary, one thing was clear to the millions watching at home: the truth, long buried beneath seasons of editing, had finally clawed its way to the surface, raw, unfiltered. An irreversible land, Starspill USA, We'll be here to continue revealing what comes next in the ashes of the Brown family's one sacred myth.
Right now, it's kind of blowing my mind. Stonehenge has fascinated me for years and years and years.
What started as a bold experiment in spiritual unity, love, and plural marriage under the spotlight of reality television slowly and painfully devolved into a fractured tale of manipulation, financial betrayal, personal collapse, and unmasking you. Story that, for years, simmered behind carefully edited scenes and curated interviews until it finally exploded into the public eye through court transcripts. Confessional social media posts, a damning documentary, and a slew of broken hearts. The Brown family was once sold to the public as a functioning, albeit unconventional, polygamous household. A symbol of spiritual strength and shared responsibility, but that carefully upheld image has since crumbled into dust. At the center of this implosion stood Kody Brown, the self-styled patriarch, whose once charismatic grip on his family transformed over time into something far more sinister. A hunger for control cloaked in the language of love. When he bellowed, "I just wanted control," during a post-documentary interview. It wasn't just a slip of the tongue, it was a moment of self-revelation. The verbal death rattle of a man who could no longer pretend his motives were selfless. As the show unraveled in real life, so did the family's trust in him. Robyn Brown, long suspected by viewers and family alike to be Kody's favorite wife, finally admitted what the others had whispered for years. The man she married was not the man he had become. He changed, she confessed, her voice hollowed, by years of emotional investment. And in loving him so fiercely, I lost sight of myself. I became invisible. While many once saw her as the innocent or even naive newcomer, a quiet shift occurred as court documents revealed discrepancies in financial statements, bank transfers, land deeds, and business funds that had allegedly been rerouted under Robyn's watch with Kody's signature. It was Mary and Janelle, the two wives who had endured Kody's mood swings, spiritual gaslighting, and years of marginalization, who decided enough was enough. They pursued legal action, not just against Kody, but also naming Robyn in a civil suit alleging financial misconduct, misappropriation of family funds, and intentional deception related to shared assets. Christine, having already departed the family earlier, provided a sworn statement in support of their claims, revealing that Kody had pressured the wives to sign documents under the guise of a future investment that never materialized. The betrayal was not merely personal, it was financial, generational, and public. But it wasn't only the wives who turned on him. The children, once shielded from the show's more toxic elements, began to speak. Gwendolyn used her platform to share chilling memories of being emotionally neglected, ignored in favor of Robyn's children, and pressured into silence. Logan, once seen as the responsible eldest sibling, posted a cryptic but powerful message on social media. Sometimes the strongest ones are the ones who walk away first. "Dad, I'm done." Gabriel's heartbreak over his brother Garrison's death, widely mourned as a preventable tragedy fueled by emotional estrangement and unresolved family conflict, pierced through the media haze and galvanized fans. Many pointed the finger at Kody and Robyn's increasingly insular household, which had cut itself off from the rest of the family. The grief exploded when photos emerged showing Garrison's funeral noticeably lacking full family attendance, with Kody absent entirely. In the public's eyes, it was a confirmation that the man who once vowed to love equally had chosen his favorites again and again, until the bonds with the rest had disintegrated beyond repair. A leaked email revealed Robyn pleading with a production assistant months before the family's final breakdown, saying she could no longer keep up the facade. "I don't know what to do anymore," she wrote. "I can't keep lying for him. I just want peace. I want out." Yet, when asked in court why she stayed, her tearful response was chilling in its simplicity. "Because he told me to, and I believed him." That moment silenced the courtroom. Even those who had long defended Robyn, as merely misguided, had to reckon with the realization that her complicity, however reluctant, had caused lasting damage. Then came the confrontation that would later be etched into Sister Wives history. The entire family, what was left of IT, gathered in a mediation meeting that had turned into a courtroom. Like reckoning, Mary turned to Robyn with decades of hurt in her eyes and delivered the line that fans would quote endlessly across social media and news headlines. "You weren't the glue, Robyn. You were the scissors." It was a sentence that cut through every layer of silence, every gaslighted memory, every denial. And Robyn didn't deny it. She sat down abruptly, covering her face with both hands as camera flashes outside the courthouse captured her breakdown. Kody, standing beside her, looked more inconvenienced than emotional, muttering something inaudible before storming out. The media ran wild. Robyn Brown breaks down in court. Kody Brown walks out. Mary wins property dispute. But the real story was what came next. Court filings proved that Robyn and Kody had created a shell company that funneled profits from my sister, wife's closeted, now defunct family jewelry business into private accounts, leaving Mary, Janelle, and their children with nothing to show for their years of unpaid emotional and promotional labor. When the judge ruled in favor of Mary and Janelle, awarding them retroactive compensation and a share of Coyote Pass land long denied to them, it was a moment of justice that felt both symbolic and tangible. But the emotional victory was even greater. The wives, once rivals in a system that pitted them against each other, had come together not in unity under one man, but in sisterhood forged through survival. Christine, now happily remarried and thriving in her independence, sent flowers to the courthouse. Janelle, stoic and composed, told reporters it's not about the money. It's about being seen. It's about being heard. And Mary, once the most emotionally tethered to Kody, walked out of the courtroom with her head held high. Not as someone defeated, but as someone reborn. In the days that followed, fans speculated about Robyn's next move. Some sources close to the family alleged she had considered writing a tell-all of her own, potentially titled, "I Chose Silence." Others claimed she had entered therapy and was seeking to privately make amends with the children. The damage had already been done. The leaked production memo confirmed what many had long suspected, that scenes were reshot or staged to make Robyn appear more sympathetic, to downplay Kody's rages, and to suppress moments of raw truth from Mary, Janelle, and Christine. The documentary's final sequence showed a flashback of Kody years earlier saying, "My wives trust me. That's the foundation." And then the screen faded to black as a subtitle read, "Trust is not built on silence, but on truth." In that moment, it was clear the story of Sister Wives had not been one of unity, but one of unraveling. What the world once believed was a testament to plural love was, in the end, a cautionary tale of emotional coercion, financial manipulation, and the slow public demise of a man who couldn't let go of control. For the wives, and for the children, who had suffered in silence, the curtain had finally fallen. Not with applause, but with a silence loud enough to demand change. And as Mary said in her final post after the verdict, accompanied by a photo of a sun rising over Coyote Pass, "It's finally ours, us. And we are finally free.
To change, you can't push them to change. You can't need them to change. You have to accept them as who they are."
What began as an idealistic portrayal of spiritual unity and plural marriage soon descended into a maelstrom of heartbreak, manipulation, and disillusionment, intricate, slow-burning tragedy unfolding before millions of viewers who once believed in the sanctity of the Brown family's unconventional bond. For years, Sister Wives had been sold as a groundbreaking glimpse into a modern-day polygamous household striving to redefine love, loyalty, and legacy. But behind the carefully curated scenes of laughter, birthday parties, and family dinners lay a festering wound, one that grew with every lie, every power play, every quiet betrayal. At the center of this collapse was Kody Brown, the so-called patriarch whose longing for control had metastasized into obsession. His now infamous outburst, "I just wanted control," echoed like a confession not just of failed leadership, but of an ego too swollen to accommodate the emotional needs of four vastly different women. And when the camera stopped rolling and the dust settled, it became glaringly clear that what Kody truly wanted was not family, was dominion. Robyn, long seen as the dutiful wife and spiritual confidant, eventually became a symbol of the very fracture she once claimed to mend. In the early seasons, she presented herself as the peacemaker, the bridge between Kody and the other wives, a woman willing to share love equally. But over time, her influence grew suffocating. Whispers became accusations, and accusations hardened into truths too painful to ignore. Was not just the viewers who noticed Meri. Once the legal wife and emotional anchor began to unravel privately, her loneliness, cloaked under layers of performative smiles, boiled over in court when she looked Robyn in the eye and declared, "You weren't the glue. You were the scissors." The words stunned the courtroom, cutting deeper than any testimony, drawing gasps from observers and igniting online debates that would burn for weeks. As the years wore on, the illusion of unity gave way to strategic alliances, clandestine bank transfers, and competing narratives. Janelle, the pragmatic and fiercely independent second wife, discovered financial discrepancies that couldn't be brushed aside. Funds meant for the whole family, especially the Kody Pass development, had been funneled through questionable channels, largely benefiting Robyn's household. It wasn't just a matter of property or income, it was a betrayal of collective trust. And when Meri and Janelle jointly filed legal action against Kody and Robyn, it became clear the spiritual marriage had turned into a legal battlefield, where truth was subpoenaed and history was weaponized. Then came the children. Once shielded from public scrutiny, they stepped forward in droves. Logan, the eldest, voiced his disappointment in cryptic but chilling Instagram posts. Gwendolyn, always sharp-witted, went further, publicly condemning the hypocrisy that had masqueraded as love within the family. Gabriel, devastated by the emotional abandonment he'd suffered, especially after the passing of his brother Garrison, didn't hold back either. The tragedy of Garrison's death had become a turning point, a wound too large for the family to conceal. A tragedy that peeled back the last of their performative unity. His passing shook the very foundation of the Brown legacy. No longer could Kody hide behind talking points or spiritual justification. His absence during Garrison's mental health struggles was laid bare by the surviving children, who felt their father had simply moved on physically, emotionally, and spiritually. The grief was not just for Garrison, but for the family they had lost long before his death. And while the world grieved with them, many couldn't help but point fingers, questioning whether years of favoritism, emotional neglect, and misplaced priorities had contributed to the young man's anguish. Amidst this storm, a damning memo leaked to the press, one that suggested Robyn and Kody had been influencing the show's narrative for years, even proposing rewrites and edits to maintain a favorable public image. The memo detailed moments, deliberately excluded arguments, financial audits, children's grievances, and even Robyn's refusal to co-sign documents for Kody Pass unless specific conditions were met. When the news broke, Robyn issued a teary-eyed public statement. But behind closed doors, she was said to have whispered through sobs, "I only wanted to protect my children. But I did it all because you told me to, Kody." That whispered confession, captured in a deposition transcript, became the moment the world turned definitively against them. It was no longer just about plural marriage or personal choice. It was about manipulation, deceit, and the quiet erasure of anyone who didn't serve their evolving narrative. As the court cases proceeded, evidence mounted, forged signatures on internal family agreements, missing funds from joint accounts, and even silenced voices within the production crew who now came forward under whistleblower protections. Christine, who had long left the marriage and found healing in a new chapter, provided written testimony detailing moments of gaslighting, emotional abuse, and covert favoritism that created an unsafe environment not just for the wives, but for the children. Her voice, once dismissed as bitter or disillusioned, now rang with credibility and clarity. And then came the final courtroom showdown. With Kody glaring across the aisle, visibly seething, Robyn slumped beside him, her hands, trembling mascara, streaked across her cheeks. Mary stood tall, her voice unwavering as she laid out years of documented emotional neglect, public humiliation, and financial manipulation. Janelle followed, presenting spreadsheets, email trails, and audio recordings. That painted a devastating portrait of betrayal under the guise of spiritual leadership. When the ruling came, it was swift and damning. Kody and Robyn were found liable for misappropriation of joint marital assets, emotional distress, and breaching family agreements with deceptive intent. The fallout was immediate. Robyn collapsed. In the courtroom, sobbing uncontrollably as Kody, jaw clenched, refused to look at anyone but the judge. Social media exploded within minutes. Robyn Brown breaks down in court,